Don't tell your brother I called him hot, okay?
Your secret's safe with me until this comes out.
Obviously, we know there's no such thing as taking time off.
Oh, wow. That's a crazy good question.
It honestly just all sounds like such a movie to me. I think it's so sweet.
House of Wax, that scary movie, comes to mind for some reason.
That magnetic feel from that song.
Banana Yellow Pops.
Hell yeah, silky and sexy. I love it.
That's a core memory right there.
Absolutely. And listen, family is not always blood, you know?
I think experiences, especially difficult experiences, bring people together. And ultimately, that's what this music thing's all about.
Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't. Hey Adam, can you hear me?
Hey, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing good. Really good lighting, dude. It looks bright. Your skin looks
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. I need to exfoliate or something to really bring it out, but I appreciate it.
No, it looks exfoliated. Usually I'm used to Zoom not making people look the best. So your skin glowing is like such a good start.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Zoom doesn't usually do me many favors, so I'm with you on that.
Dude, so funny. You're in Seattle, correct?
Yes, yeah, where light is high in demand this time of year. So, and where are you based?
Austin, Texas.
Awesome. That's a fun place. Austin is cool.
Loving it. Have you been in Seattle your entire life?
Absolutely not. No, I have been in Seattle for about 8 years now. I'm actually originally from Arkansas, which is quite a curveball, but yeah, and I've been lived in numerous places since then. But Seattle's home now, so.
Is Arkansas, and I'm totally freestyling here, is Arkansas like home of Razorbacks or something?
That's it. Yes,
Hell
that is
yeah.
absolutely right. I went to school there as well, so I'm a Razorback myself. That's funny. Yeah, right next door to you, or at least
Dude,
to Texas.
I
Yeah.
actually don't know how I knew that, but man, do I feel fucking masculine saying
You,
that and being right.
you're killing it. Yeah, you are like that's it. You're 100 for 100 right now.
Dude, hell yeah. You mentioned moving around a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Where has been your favorite place to live? I mean, obviously 8 years, that's a long time, so you obviously don't hate Seattle, but moving
Yeah.
around, where all have you been?
Yeah, Seattle probably is my favorite place, at least in the US. I actually, after college, was in the army for a few years, interestingly. So I lived in Germany for about 3.5 years. That's probably my number one favorite. I love Europe. It's a really fun place and a totally different way of living. But Seattle is, I mean, it's a real close second. It might even be tied for first, honestly. I love it here.
Dude, very cool. I'll actually be going to Germany for the first time at the end of the year, so I'm super stoked. Never been. I'm going to Munich.
Awesome. You're gonna love it. Munich is such a blast. Are you going for Oktoberfest or
I
something totally?
am.
Let's go. That's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
super excited for it.
is it and you said it's your first time?
Yeah.
Sweet. You're gonna have a blast. Wow, that's awesome.
Have you had the
It's just
opportunity to be there during Oktoberfest?
I have, and Munich is one of my favorite cities. So I lived just a several hour train ride from there. There's actually fest season in Germany is from April until basically the end of September, and it kind of culminates with Oktoberfest. And so throughout that season, you can kind of find little fests in smaller towns across Germany. But I will just tell you, Oktoberfest is as good as the hype. So you're gonna love
Okay, I'm
it.
super, super stoked. Even more excited now. I am actually glad that you mentioned Europe because I am going to bring up Europe a little bit later for something else, something completely different. But I want
Cool.
to get started in talking about the band real quick. First of all,
Sure.
how did you guys form? How long ago? And why Pallets? I'm super excited to hear the story behind the name.
Yeah, I love that question. And even before I talk about that, we've done a lot of educating around like the different various spellings of pallets. I think most people, you default to the wood version of pallets. But actually, so Austin, who is a very close friend of mine, and we went to high school together in Arkansas. So we kind of grew up together playing music. He and I lived in separate places for quite a few years, but we always kind of came back to this. We played music and were in some bands earlier in high school and even in college days, but we never really scratched the itch the way that we wanted to. We never really, I don't think, did the thing as much as we wanted to. And luckily, when I was back, I moved to Seattle in 2017. I moved to Washington State in 2017. And several years later, there was an opportunity. Austin was actually living in Austin, and there was an opportunity for him to come to Seattle and take a vacant room in a house full of a few friends. And he took that opportunity, and we pretty much got to writing music immediately in the garage. So So the EP was born in the garage of that house. Yeah, we threw around a few ideas. We liked the idea of palettes. It started as kind of an album name, actually. So we were gonna maybe stick to one of our old band names, and then we thought, it feels more natural to just kind of move into another chapter and leave that where it was, and kind of give that the respect that it deserved at the time with those other folks that we were playing with who were a part of that too. So then we thought, you know what? What if we just lean into this all the way and we can move through this colors discussion, which has been really fun to try to figure out what does this feel like? What does this sound like? What is this mood for us? And then we kind of just, I think, solidified it with the self-titled EP decision. So yeah, and then Hector, who is also in the band, joined the band. We actually started recording with him. So Palettes was official in 2021, and Brian Butcher, who sings for the home team, is a good friend, and he's from Seattle, and he was a big part of, bringing that music to life and helping us kind of like realize the vision and bringing a lot of his knowledge and mentorship to the table, which was fantastic. And throughout that process, he connected us with Hector, who moved to Seattle from Utah, from Salt Lake, and Hector was starting up his own recording studio, and it worked out perfectly to where we actually recorded all that Palettes music at Hector's. And then shortly after, or during that process, at some point, we invited him into the band. And so that's kind of the story of, of how the three of us got into the band. But
Dude, such a
yeah.
cool story. And I love that the story tells what happens when you do close a chapter and just
Mhm.
move with what your gut is telling you. I think it speaks volumes. I fucking love that.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to say it. And that's exactly what we did. We kind of just leaned into what felt natural, and the gut was core to that. So,
Dude,
yeah.
absolutely. Well, you talked about starting in 2021. You guys had
Hmm.
your first CP that came out in 2023. Talk to
Yeah.
me about the gap between 2023 and the new stuff that you're putting out. It's a couple years, and obviously we know there's no such thing as taking time off, right? But
Yeah.
what was happening
Yeah.
during this time for you guys?
So in 2023, we dropped the EP in the summer of 2023. We're an independent band, so a lot of it is, I think, as much figuring things out and kind of how this world functions and moves, and connecting with people in the local scene, connecting with people everywhere that we could, just getting our feet underneath us. So that was kind of just, how do we promote this? What are we doing on socials? Like learning all of those kind of foundational things. And then 2024, we got off to kind of a quick start for us. We played a couple shows. We played an EP release show in the fall of 2023, and then 2024 in the spring. It was May, June. We put together a DIY West Coast tour with a band called All in Your Head, who's based out of Portland. They're fantastic. Definitely check them out if you haven't heard of them. But we co-headlined that West Coast run, met a whole bunch of awesome people and awesome bands. It was a blast. Then later that calendar year, we got invited to open a few shows for the home team, which, and Arrows in Action was also on that tour. Basically, the home team was doing some routing shows between Seattle and East Coast for Neck Deep. They were supporting a Neck Deep tour. So they planned some headliner shows to and from, and we jumped on those to open, which was an incredible experience. And then I think throughout that entire time, we were writing. It's always a start and stop when shows pop up and you're in the middle of writing, but you're like, we got to go do this. And that's just part of it that we enjoy. But yeah, so we did write a bunch of new music, and you're starting to see kind of that come to fruition. I mean, there's a huge chunk in here too. So we connected with Kyle Black, who's a fantastic producer in the pop punk world, very accomplished. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him either. But it's both he and Brian were kind of like our core team, so to speak. But throughout that, we were doing a lot of writing, a lot of kind of pre-production stuff. But we were entered into this like internet head-to-head competition with a page called Pop Punk Fridays. They're also awesome. I love what they do, putting bands like us, smaller bands, trying to grow on the map. And we ended up winning that competition. And Kyle had a friend who was involved in that as well, and so he saw us from there. We set up a call, we talked to him about it, and that kind of is what started our collaboration with Kyle, who is, again, like, he was a big part of this new music. And we went to LA to his studio to record the new music with him last year. So yeah, we were like you said, it's not always apparent that the band is doing something, but there's always something to do, even just coordinating merch and all these awesome things that take work, but they're also like a lot of fun to just kind of bring the whole brand and vision to life. So
Exactly. Well, and I think you also said it so perfectly too. Without this groundwork, really, what other material would you be able to have? You have to go out and
mhm.
experience life, throw yourself at things that are so unknown in order for you to be able to put something down on paper that's meaningful. And you're not just writing songs for the sake of writing songs. And so I always like to highlight those little gaps in between because, like we said, there is no such thing as time off. There's always so much groundwork that goes goes into a project. And I love that we're getting the fruition out of it now with the new stuff coming out. I want to mention Brian real quick. First of all, that
Hmm.
connection is so cool. Love them. They're so great. I've had them on the show before. But if I'm not mistaken, I was today years old when I learned that he had also done some like videography or something for you guys. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, Brian. Yeah, he is a well-rounded machine. Yeah, in the earlier, not, I guess it's kind of earlier now, but in like the slow boom days with the home team, he was bringing those videos together. He was filming them and directing them and doing the editing. I know there were some other folks that were involved. It wasn't 100% him, but there was a huge chunk of those music videos that he was kind of doing the thing, and he brought a lot of that experience into helping again us realize our vision as palettes. And so, yeah, it's absolutely true. Not only did he film, direct, and edit the two music videos from the EP, but also this latest music video that dropped for Magenta about a month ago. He also filmed and directed that and edited. And I think Sam Link also helped with some of the video effects and coloring and things like that. But yeah, it's been awesome to have him. He's like a Swiss Army knife.
And even on my best days, I think about you and I'm restless in the worst way. I've been distant, less persistent than I was back then. I can breathe again. I can feel your hands wrapped around my neck. You keep squeezing tighter and tighter. And I don't think that you can take this back. I think you want to, and I don't think I want you to.
So sick. And he's working on other stuff too with you guys, even unreleased stuff. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely don't want to give too many spoilers or anything, but I
Yeah.
just think it's so
Yeah.
cool that that relation continues to grow. And I think that that also speaks volumes on the connections that you make along the way when you choose to stick around with a core group. And so I'm
Hmm.
super excited for what else is going to come out of that connection for sure.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It's really fun how it materialized because we actually met each other kind of talking about like craft beer, which is the most stereotypical thing I could say out loud, but it's the truth. And so we became friends first. And then once Austin moved up to Seattle and we started kind of working on music, it was like, hey, would you check this out and see what you think? And then he was kind of like, you know what, let me help you guys out and like we'll see where this goes. And he's been, behind us, supporting us ever since. And actually, all of the home team, I got to give a shout out to like all the guys because, Dan and Ryan and John have also been awesome supporters. And yeah, so it's kind of their whole ecosystem, which is
No,
awesome.
absolutely. It's so awesome and it's so refreshing to see because a lot of people, they really do just kind of take off and part ways with everything. It just in general, it's a really big part of this industry. It's almost like
Hmm.
you not necessarily use people along the way in a bad way. Don't mean that in a negative way, but in this industry, it really is so hard to stick around with a core group along the way for
Yeah.
more stuff than just get the job done, move on, and that's it. So to me, it speaks a lot of volumes about not just them, but also you guys for sure. Love it.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Of
Yeah, we are.
course.
They say, what is it? The saying? It's like, don't fix it if it ain't broke, right? So,
Hell yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Speaking of broke, real quick, I want to talk about Instagram with you real quick. I was
Sure.
dying at your caption or your bio that said lost previous account at 47 billion. I
Oh
laughed at
yeah.
that. But I do want to talk about Instagram with you real quick. First of all, when it comes to Instagram, I saw that you and your brother had traveled together. And
Hmm.
another thing I laughed about that was your hashtag, Daddies Go East or something, I think it said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a core memory right there. Yeah.
So awesome. So my question to you about this was, if you and
Hmm.
your brother packed up right now to date and took a Daddy's Go West trip, where are you two going?
That is such a good question because he's in Charlotte. So I would hope that he would just come to me in Seattle. But if we were both to go west from Seattle, I think of like Japan would be awesome. Even Hawaii or something along the way. Something like he's a warm weather guy for sure. So I would respect that and kind of, put my reptile tendencies aside a little bit. But yeah, that's an awesome question. I would love to say Japan, frankly, if
Hell
he doesn't
yeah.
if he doesn't choose some island in the Pacific along the way. So.
So sick. Well, my follow-up question is, please tell me that you two had like an awkward, ugly ass phase because those pictures you guys took, I was like, damn, they're both so fucking hot.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh yeah, there's plenty of I got plenty of proof out there. Back in the day, I've had friends tell me that's such a flattering comment. I appreciate that. I've
Of
had friends
course.
tell me like without my beard, they can't they can't fathom Adam without my beard. So it does me some favors, I think.
Dude, that is so awesome. Well, I also have to bring up your Paris trip because I saw your engagement. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you,
But
thank
the
you.
first thing that crossed my mind was like, oh my gosh, how do you top an engagement in Paris? Like, what are you guys doing for your honeymoon? I've got to be nosy and ask.
Yeah, I love that question. Frankly, I think to some degree, the engagement was the big thing for us. My fiance, she would not have needed all that, is the way I'll say it, right? If that were a picnic, she would have been over the moon as well. And that's one of the reasons why I think it was so fun to bring that together. And we still haven't done like our wedding ceremony yet, but we've talked about different versions of it and what it looks like. And is it here? Is it there? Are we eloping? Is it just a reception focused type ceremony? But I actually think that yeah, the wedding itself will probably be a little bit more lightweight. The honeymoon, though, TBD. Yeah, if we could get over to Italy or do another Europe trip, we just love Europe so much. So I'm sure that's where we'll end up.
So awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to send good vibes for you guys to pick the best
Thank
spot
you.
ever for it.
Thank
But I thought
you.
that was so cool. But I want to highlight what you just said real quick because I got
Mhm.
goosebumps while you said it. I thought it was so sweet that because you know of her personality and how she wouldn't have cared if it would have just been a picnic, that was the motivator to do something so grand. That is
Yeah.
such a sweet detail. I've got to point that out. That is so sweet. I love that. Take notes,
Thank
everyone.
you. I was gonna say, I'll tell her you said that. I'll pass along the message. Yeah.
Of course. I want to talk about your new song real quick. Soundstone
Sure.
Silhouettes, being drawn to something that doesn't work. Tell us
hmm
about this song because it's such a good song. I love the message behind it, that magnetic feel from that song. Tell us about it.
The feel of the song musically, a lot of that was driven kind of by Austin and his vision for like, especially this kind of Western feel and how we brought that together. Lyrically, I can say a lot of it is inspired by, so my now fiance and I actually broke up for a few years. So we dated for about 3 years and then we broke up at the end of 2019. It was pretty amicable, actually. We were just kind of in different places. And there was a period of a couple years there where when we were apart, where, we would ebb and flow and kind of reconnect and then disconnect and then reconnect and then disconnect. And we were like, this is not healthy. We need to just figure this out one way or the other. And Sandstone speaks to that in terms of how I felt when we were like kind of going through that and trying to figure out we shouldn't really be doing this, but it is so damn tempting to keep doing it. And, ultimately we did, and then we got back together. But that's kind of where you're hearing, those themes getting teased out. Definitely a kind of a relationship type of influence or inspiration, I should say, for the lyrics.
Don't think that I can take it anymore. This type of chemistry you can't ignore. We got exactly what we bargained for. Losing all my self-control. I'm wrapped around your fingertips, invisible. Got me on my knees. What you be out? Can you spit me out? I'm in love with it. I think I'm in love with it.
Well, I think it's so beautiful that it tells such a good story. And the irony about us talking about that groundwork, without it, you can't really have any material. And I love that this is also coming from the inspiration of those rocky times in your relationship, which, by the way, it honestly just all sounds like such a movie to me. I think it's so sweet. And I'm
Yeah,
going to just catch you off guard with this question real quick because now I'm just
sure.
curious. If this were to be a love movie, a romance movie, who would play you and who would play her?
Oh, wow, that's a crazy good question. I can say who would I want to play me? That is tough. I mean, it's funny because as you were saying, asking that question, I thought immediately about the Notebook in the OG days, and my mind kind of floats directly to like a Ryan Gosling situation. It would be awesome to have a Ryan Gosling out there playing me. I would probably be somebody a little bit more low key, but and for her, oh, that's hard because I would have high standards for whoever that actress is.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, even if I just play out through the Notebook, like Rachel McAdams, I'm a big fan of her, and I think like there's a lot of just classiness that she kind of exudes that I think also my fiance does, and that's always special. So I'll go straight stereotypical and just pull it right out of the notebook and
But you
go.
know what? That is such a good answer on its own because even in that role, like she wasn't asking for too much. She didn't need too much in that movie. You know what I mean? And so I feel like it
Yeah.
almost does exude that personality we were talking about. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Dude, so awesome. Something I also want to talk about with you real quick is a description in regards to something that you guys have said before. Everyone
Mhm.
feels and experiences things in their own way. Can you recall a moment where you finally understood this? Because this is so profound, but it's really hard for anyone to grasp without really living
Mhm.
through it, if that makes sense.
This actually ties back to the band name. So, throughout our discussions around palettes and around the colors that we choose, which are all very deliberate choices, we came to the realization that what feels like a purple color or feels like a red color or feels like a green color might not feel like that color to somebody else. And so, we can live the same experience. You and I could live through the same experience, and it's going to ultimately feel different, to each of us. And that is kind of what defines us and our own personal color palettes, or palettes as we are humans, and I think that is the sentiment that we're getting at with kind of the spirit of that quote. So,
Which gives me such like a good heartwarm feeling because I think that even that alone, colors can mean something so different to someone else. And I love that
mm,
you guys are leaving so much room for open interpretation in those colors. And so, you could either interpret the song one way or another, but you can also interpret the colors in a completely different way. And so I love that room for interpretation. I think it's a really good way to, basically widen your audience because again, it's going to mean something so different for everyone else. So genius in a
yeah.
way. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome that it resonates because I think that's one of the most fun things about what we've been able to kind of fall into to some degree. Like I mentioned, how it's natural. This has been a natural evolution of our conversations and how we think about representing this music and this art and what we're trying to say. And it's really cool to be able to tap into this whole other, title. And that's also an element of how we feel and how we express and how other people also feel and express. So
I love it.
that's good to hear.
Exactly. Totally, dude. I'm so excited to hear that too. And I want to do something in honor of those colors real quick. So, in honor of the color themes in just palettes in general, I'm going to give you a color and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind if that color inspired a song today. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah. Hit me.
All right, here we go. The first one I have is banana yellow.
Oh, I love it. This might be cheating because we have a yellow, but I think banana yellow is soft. So we have a yellow that's more kind of angry. Banana yellow to me feels more fun. It feels more, maybe like nostalgically reminiscent than it does frustrated or out of control. But banana yellow pops. I think the banana modifier is what gives me good vibes, though.
Okay, this is why I love doing this with guests because something I wrote down on my notes in regards to Banana Yellow, I wrote nostalgic for like Mario Kart and it's just chaotic and messy. So that is hilarious that you say that. So funny.
Yeah, I love the Mario Kart shot. That's funny. When I think of a banana, I absolutely think of that in like my top three.
So awesome. The next one I have for you
Yeah.
is Blood Orange.
Mm, blood orange. See, this is a good one. I mean, when you say that, I immediately think of the fruit, but what comes to mind is trying to explore the complexity of a color like blood orange. Not to get too corny, but it's not really a blood color and it's not really an orange color. And I think that there's a lot of fun, interesting ways that you could channel what that is and if it's how you feel on the inside versus how you're kind of presenting things on the outside. That's kind of the first conceptual thing that comes to mind, but the fruit comes to mind when you say
Dude,
blood orange.
genius, though. That is so genius. And I love the explanation of how it's not even a blood orange. Like it's not even the color blood at all. So genius.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That didn't even cross my
Thank you.
mind. The next one I have for you is matte black.
Oh, that's cool. Matte Black. I feel mysterious. When I think of a matte black, I think of a mysterious, maybe even a little bit skeptical type of feeling. I immediately think of a car, actually. I think of like a decked out matte black, like a Tahoe or something. I don't know why that comes to mind first, but the color itself makes me feel kind of like sleek and sly, and maybe there's something, a cool undertone going on. The matte in particular.
You also said it so perfectly, the mystery behind it, because what's funny about this is I love the color matte black around the house in general because there is no reflection to it. You know what I mean? So I love
That's
that you said
cool.
mystery. So very cool. The next one I have for
Yeah.
you is porcelain.
Ooh. Porcelain. I mean, so the first thing that comes to mind is probably like a museum, like the old, even like House of Wax, that scary movie comes to mind for some reason. I think porcelain, when I think about how that would be represented, is it feels like an empty shell of something. It reminds me of, is there somebody who maybe has less on the inside than they're giving off, and maybe it frustrates you, or maybe you feel porcelain, like we feel porcelain sometimes, where we're kind of just floating through an experience, but we're not really giving it what we should give it or what it deserves or what we deserve to give it. So I feel like an emptiness kind of inside of a shell a little bit.
All right, listen, I'm not going to be asking for any credit on your next future project when you use some of these, okay?
Yeah, you got it. I'm right. I'm taking notes.
Amazing. The last one I have for you is Egyptian Blue.
Whoa, Egyptian blue. That's awesome. I mean, the first thing I think about, and I would have to look at an Egyptian blue. I think of like a royal blue type of color, almost like a silky color. And that's exactly where my head goes. It goes to this, like, maybe it's a sexy song. Maybe it's got like stylistic experimentation going on with the music, but that's a good one. I love the Egyptian blue.
Hell yeah, silky and sexy. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Well,
awesome.
well, listen, I had to lighten things up before they got a little bit dark. So this was just my way to
Sure,
kind of bait you in a little bit, okay? But
you got
something
me.
I wanted to talk to you about now that we've got your attention about writing, your mind is on
Hmm.
writing, okay? I've been dying to ask you this, and it's a little bit of a personal question. So you can
Okay.
choose which way you want to take it. It's not going to make me feel a certain way if you choose not to, but I am just truly curious, okay? Somewhere I had read about growing up with a single mom addicted to opioids. Am I
Hmm.
correct on there? Okay, first
You
of all,
are.
sorry if I fucked
Yeah.
up that word. Do you ever get nervous that talking about such specific moments can cause rifts between you and people close to you? And how do you deal with that?
Do I ever get nervous? I don't get nervous that there will be rifts. Actually, I think the opposite happens. I think to have a single mom, to grow up in an environment where, in this case, it was my brother and me, and then my mom, and that was it. She was the sole caretaker, and she was on disability as well because she'd hurt her back. So she had been a teacher and worked through these back surgeries, and basically completely fell into the entire opioid epidemic that happened, that there's documentaries about. I mean, that's the exact timing and kind of the exact way it played out, where I think doctors were out there maybe making some questionable decisions, some doctors. And so she kind of fell into this cycle of addiction. And what I've learned, we have a song called Slate, Picking Up Your Pieces, and that is inspired by my mom, as is Magenta, and actually many other songs. But I have spoken to this at shows. I have talked about it, Slate in particular, and just, explained to people who were there that this is what this is about. And I've had a lot of really, I think, important and significant conversations with people from those rooms who have come up to me after and said, thank you for saying this. I'm going through some experience that's similar, and kind of here's what it is. And that is incredibly special. It's hard to explain that feeling when you're being vulnerable like that. And then people relate to you, and then they share their experiences with you. And they're all really sensitive topics, But I think experiences, especially difficult experiences, bring people together. And ultimately, that's what this music thing's all about, is how do we all get in the same room and how do we come together at the same time? And I have found that difficult experiences and talking about them is actually a point that brings people together.
Play these games with our lives for the sake of yours. Growing up without strength's not what we deserve. And all these things
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I don't typically like to pry on super personal things like that because, they are sensitive topics, and I definitely don't want to, catch anyone off guard emotionally in a negative way. But I was so
Yeah.
curious about that. And so, first of all, thank you so much for sharing it. Would you say that this has been a coping mechanism for you even prior to this band? It's just putting things on paper.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I appreciate the question. And frankly, it is at the center of a lot of music and lyrics lyrics and inspiration, and absolutely it has been a coping mechanism. I mean, when I got into music, so to speak, I picked up a guitar when I was 15 because I wanted to write songs, right? The guitar was a vehicle for me to actually write music, and that was the objective for me. And a lot of that music ever since then, there have been a lot of songs about my mom, both good and more frustrated. And, we love our moms, shout out, rest in peace. But at the same time, I think absolutely music is an outlet for that. And it's as much at the center of what I feel like I have to say as anything else. So.
Do you feel like having this music that was inspired by her is also a way for you to carry on this legacy and having her so close to you?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I do. And sometimes it's interesting because, again, some things come out in a frustrating way, things I would never say to my mother because I don't want her to feel bad. She was a wonderful woman. And I absolutely do. I feel like, if anything, it keeps her kind of on my mind throughout things and processes and songwriting experiences that she may or not otherwise be on my mind throughout. So I do see it as kind of a way to carry her with me, so to speak.
That is so amazing. And I've got to ask, how has your brother dealt with the music? How does he relate to the music? Because obviously we talked about having different outcomes and how we deal with things, right? Can he relate to the
Hmm.
music?
Yes, absolutely. My brother has been actually a huge supporter of, I mean, back when Austin and I were playing music when we were 16, 17, Dylan was always right behind us and thought it was the coolest thing. And that's still true. I still think he's our biggest fan, or at least tied for first. And yeah, and the songs that are inspired by my mom, I think, are especially special for him. And we have conversations about almost like line by line of the lyrics. What does this mean? What does that mean? Because Dylan and I were going through it together, very much so, and in a lot of ways. So I think for him, it's not just interesting to hear how that ends up manifesting in music, but I also think we share some of those same feelings. So I hope that he listens and feels some type of relieved, kind of working through those memories again with these perspectives.
Well, and I think it's special that it adds another component and layer to the bond that you guys are carrying through in your adult years. So I think that it's so amazing. And I think that it just speaks so many volumes in the vulnerability that goes into putting what you're feeling down on this paper, but even more so releasing it. And your brother's getting
Hmm.
to connect with you. And again, it adds another layer to this relationship and dynamic. And it just makes me so happy to hear because we need those bonds. We need to
Hmm.
allow our feelings to get pushed out there so that others can also feel and cope and also connect. I think that it's a very powerful thing, and I love music because of that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I don't know if it could be said any better than that. That is nail on the head, I think, how we feel and how we share these things as humans, even beyond family and even beyond close friends. And, Austin was there for this too. So he was, it was like dinner at Austin's house because his mom's gonna invite me over for dinner, and my brother was doing the same thing. And so it's interesting where he's not our brother, but in a lot of ways, he was right there with us, watching these things unfold and helping create safe spaces at certain times. And so it's special to be able to bring those songs to life with him in the picture too.
Absolutely. And listen, family is not always blood, so that's amazing.
Yeah, spot on. That's what did I hear? Friends are the family you choose. That's what
Absolutely.
it's so true.
And that's
Yeah.
the best part, even with a band, you're choosing to do this with them. It's a choice. So awesome.
Yeah.
Totally random now that I'm picking your brain about writing and stuff. I know we don't
Sure.
necessarily want to hint too much of what's happening in the future, and we're definitely not going to hold you to anything. But just to
Yeah.
kind of wrap things up with you real quick, what can you
Mhm.
tell us about what's happening in the near future? Any shows, new music, all those good details?
Yeah, I can tell you without giving too much away, both are on the horizon. So we do have a couple more songs coming down the pike, and we absolutely do have shows. We're kind of working through some planning for those right now. So as soon as we have concrete details, we'll be shouting that from the mountaintops because we can't wait to play some of this new music. That's the most fun part, I think, or one of the most fun parts. So
Well, we
yeah,
can't
I
wait to
won't
hear it.
stay tuned. Yeah, stay tuned. Thank you. Thanks for
Of
asking.
course. Well, speaking of staying tuned, where can we find you? Please tell everyone, for those that are going to be listening and not watching, where can they find your music, your socials, all those good details?
Yes, our handle across socials is at Palettes Band, and you can find our link tree with the handle the same, or in our Instagram bio or TikTok bio, all those good things. But yeah, go check it out. Go give us a listen, see what you think. Tell us your favorite color suggestions, and maybe they'll make the cut someday.
Hell yeah. Well, listen, if none of those make the cut, hopefully some of mine today do, okay?
That's right. That's right. I can't forget about Egyptian blue.
There you go. Silky and sexy.
That's it. That's it.
Amazing, Adam. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. We'll definitely be in touch on when to expect this to air and all those good details, but we'll definitely be in touch. Super excited for everything happening with Palettes for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mo. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, we'll be in touch, and don't tell your brother I called him hot, okay?
Your secret's safe with me until this comes out.
Exactly. Thanks. Peace out, dude.
All right. Bye. See you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.